high fever among those vaccinated, among those vaccinated. So it was not, it was discontinued, no? And then there was the development of the first generation recombinant vaccine. And then later on, the second generation dengue vaccine. So it took more than 20 years. But if you count the years from the time the dengue virus was isolated and then the 4 serotypes were identified, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there were several tests, laboratory tests, looking into the immunogenicity of the monovalent. So isa muna, monovalent, that is the dengue serotype 1 vaccine, then dengue serotype 2, 3, and 4, and then mixed 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and so on. It has been actually around 70 years. But for this dengue vaccine, it's been more than 2 years, 20 years in terms of its development. The dengue vaccine development program is very robust. It was done in 25 clinical studies in 15 countries, and more than 40,000 subjects were included in clinical studies. There were 5 phase 1 trials, 14 phase 2 trials, 6 phase 3 trials, and from all over the world. So 15 countries, which also include other industrialized countries like Australia and USA. The 2 large efficacy trials were conducted. We call it, the first one is CYD14, because it's participated by 5 Asian countries: Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and we enrolled 10,275 2 to 14 years old children. This was conducted in San Pablo City and Guadalupe City in Cebu. And the other one, the CYD15, this was participated by 5 Latin American countries in Colombia, Mexico, Honduras, Puerto Rico, and Brazil. And the age group was 9 to 16 years of age. They enrolled 20,869. So based on the epidemiology of dengue infection in Latin American countries, that's the reason why it was given in older age group compared to ours in Asia. It's 2 to 14 years of age. So this was the study design. So we enrolled healthy children. So we all, of course, are involved in several studies and clinical trials. We know there are inclusion and exclusion criteria. So this was an efficacy trial. The design was, the vaccine was given 3 doses at 6 months interval, so 0, 6, and 12. And then 1 year after, so 1 year after there is the looking into the long-term surveillance. No? So 1 year after the completion of the 3 doses, that comprises the efficacy phase. So during this active phase, there was we looked into the safety and reactogenicity, surveillance of hospitalized and non-hospitalized fever, dengue cases, and school-based surveillance. So the objective of the efficacy study was to assess the efficacy of the dengue vaccine regardless, against symptomatic dengue, regardless of the severity and the serotype. So yun lang ang objective primary objective ng efficacy study. So vaccine efficacy against symptomatic dengue, regardless of severity and serotype. So ito ang efficacy phase. And then there is this long-term follow-up phase for safety. That's the long-term follow-up. So this year 3 and year 4 were the hospital phase. So we had nurses going to the 7 in San Pablo City, 7 hospitals, and regularly checking for our subjects who were hospitalized. And then this was followed by the surveillance expansion phase. Okay. there was a publication following this the efficacy phase. So there was a publication from Lancet, and then in 2015, so another publication from the New England Journal of Medicine. So this is about the long term, the results, the data coming from this the hospital phase. And then, so this was the time that in December of 2015, the Vaxia was registered in the country. So yun ang overview from the clinical trial data, and then coming into the vaccine registration. But with regards to vaccine registration, it also includes the data from 25 clinical trials done in 15 countries. So these were the publications in Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine. So this was the result of the efficacy and then the long-term study. So for the CYD14, that's where we participated in 5 Asian countries, the efficacy against symptomatic dengue was 56.5%, reduction in hospitalized dengue 67.2%, and efficacy against severe dengue 80%. That means, so it can only protect around 56 or 57%, but in terms of severity, mas reduce ang severity 80%, and of course, reducing also yung pagiging hospitalized mo. No? And if you have this data, both from the CYD14 and CYD15, so this is the pooled data. 65.6% against symptomatic dengue, 80.8% against hospitalized dengue, and almost 93% against severity. So reduction in severity of the dengue disease. So together with this finding regarding the efficacy, so we noted also this following. We noted that children who were young, di ba, ang sa amin 2 to 14 sa Asia, children who were young had only a vaccine efficacy of 33.7%. Pag tumataas na 6 to 11, 59.5%. Pag 12 to 14, 74.4%. And then, so we also observed that that was a finding that based on the serostatus in the CYD14, in the 2 to 14 age group, those seropositive had an efficacy of 74.3%. But those seronegative had only an efficacy of 35.5%. Findings na ito noon. No? So together with this was in our publication. So this was a statement. No? This was we provided this information. And if we look, di ba, na ano natin na the vaccine was recommended pala in 9 to 45 years old. And we looked at the serostatus in 2,918 subjects aged 9 to 16 years from 10 countries in Latin America and Asia. And almost 82% had efficacy in seropositive subjects, 52.5% efficacy in seronegative subjects. So doon ito sa recommended age group. Diba? 9 na pa. And then, so also, there was this finding in the long term. Di ba ang long term kanina, year 3, 4. So itong findings, nakita in subjects less than 9 years old and below. 9 years old and below. So we noted that on year 3, there was an increased number of hospitalized cases in the vaccine group versus the placebo group. Okay, so dito yun. But in year 4, bumalik siya. Okay? And then in the community, so ganoon, more cases in the placebo group. Kasi ang ano pala, kalimutan ko sabihin na, those healthy children who were enrolled, they were randomized 2:1. That means for every for everyone, so for everyone vaccinees, no, for everyone who received the vaccine, the Dengvaxia or the CYD, we call it CYD tetravalent vaccine. So there were two placebo or received the placebo. This finding was in the less than 9 years of age. But if we look, sorry. Paano yung pag-backward? Forward ito, di ba? Ay, okay. Gusto ko saan i-backward eh. Ayun, ayun. Okay. Dito. Ito. Ito ba? Dito ang forward. Kung hindi ba naman siya? Okay. Okay, so yun. Those in the 9 years of age, walang nakita yon, no? There was no imbalance in year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. So, yun, nakikita natin. So, wala doon sa year 3. So, compared to those in less than 9 years of age. Okay. So we look at the increased risk of hospitalization among vaccinated children, and it was noted that it was in the 2 to 5 year age, 2 to 5 age group, that there was 7 times more risk of having a hospitalization to 2 to 5, and then, but in the recommended age group of 9 years and above. So wala, no? Okay. So that there was an increased risk of hospitalization due to dengue in the vaccinated subjects were observed only in the 2 to 5 year age group with a relative risk of 7.45. So that was, the vaccine was indicated for the 9 years old and above. Okay? So ito, siguro hindi na lang, kasi ito actually it's about, hindi rin siguro maano yun, it's about yung pag-enter ng a video. Pwede ba yun? Maano natin i-try natin kung makaka-video doon. Ayun. Sige nga, i-try natin. Kung, hindi. Hindi ko pala nasabi ano na video yan. Okay, sige. Sige, dapat video pala yan about from the time the virus enters the body. So, yun. So, yung nakita natin na in year 3 and less than 9 years of age, there was an increased risk of hospitalization in the vaccinees compared to the placebo. So, ang ano noon, diba, ang mga discussions that was a year ago, ng school-based immunization program ang Department of Health was it was ADE, so antibody-dependent enhancement. So what is antibody-dependent enhancement? Actually, some medicine, so even during our medical studies, so it is when a person has previously been infected with one serotype, becomes infected later with a different serotype, and then the clinical course of the disease is more severe with higher viremia compared with those in whom ATE has not occurred. This is based on observation that while with the primary or first infection, it caused mostly minor disease manifestations, secondary infection or reinfection is more likely to be associated with the severe form of diseases in both children and adults. So what we did is we looked at the indicators or surrogates of antibody-dependent enhancement. So, yung mga clinical samples ng hospitalized children, both in the placebo and the vaccine group, tinignan yan on the level of kung mataas ba ang kanilang viremia, altered isotochine profile, and increased severity in the clinical manifestations. And the results showed that there was no difference in terms of viremia level between the vaccine and the placebo group. There was no difference in terms of cytokine levels between the two groups. And in terms of disease manifestations, length of hospitalizations, duration of fever and clinical symptoms, frequencies of signs and symptoms, there was no difference. So from the efficacy to the long-term follow-up. Okay. Kanina pinakita ko, di ba, yung figure na sa year 3 in less than 9 years old until year 4. So ito, this was data until year 5. So sa year 5, ito year 1, just take a look at the number, ito sa vaccine group, ito sa placebo group, in terms of clinically severe dengue. So sa year 1, 2 over 3,315, 3 over 1,657. So these were the number of dengue cases classified as having severe dengue doon sa 10,275 na enrolled in the study. So year 2, 0 versus 8 in the placebo group. So dito yan nakita sa year 3, 3 versus 1. Year 4, 4 versus 2, and year 5, 4, 3. So in year 5, 4 out of 3,218 and 3 out of 1,608 in the placebo group, that's in the recommended age group. So tingnan natin kasi yun naman ang binabakunahan. Okay? And in terms of the relative risk, di ba? So doon nakita yun sa year 3 that there is a 1.5 times risk that vaccinated children will develop severe dengue. But titingnan mo dito ang year 4, year 5, wala na yun yung risk na yan. So in year 4, which is 1, so there was no difference between the vaccine and the placebo group, and year 5, so there is protection. Okay? So ito ang knowledge gap. Kasi na license, na registered na license, ibinigay na sa mga school-based and also among the private practitioners. And this is the knowledge gap. The scientific, public health, and regulatory communities have indicated that CYD vaccine safety in seronegative population is an important knowledge gap. And very limited information from the efficacy studies was available to address this question due to the availability of serostatus in only 10 to 20% of study participants. So that was a knowledge gap. So, okay. Actually, meron dito suggestion on WHO. Special situation should be regarding looking into this low efficacy in seronegative children. Okay, so ito na. So siguro we are now aware of this press release from Sanofi, the manufacturer, no? And itong statement na the analysis confirmed that was in November 29. The analysis confirmed that Dengvaxia provides persistent protective benefit against dengue fever in those who had prior infection. So that means the seropositive. For those not previously infected by dengue virus, however, the analysis found that in the longer term, more cases of severe disease could occur following vaccination upon a subsequent dengue infection. So yun ang kanilang press release. Pati kami na investigators na bigla. Okay? Because we were informed in the later part of November with all the investigators, and we had several scientific discussions. Ang ano namin, at siguro iyan ako mamaya kwento as we go along. Itong dengue, this was the basis for the press release. So they used a new test. Ang tawag yan is dengue anti-N-1 IgG ELISA assay. Ang ano nito, di ba? Ang N-1 ng protein ng dengue vaccine, the dengue vaccine, is coming from the yellow fever. So, kung makita na may presence of dengue N-1 antibodies, may differentiate previous exposure to natural dengue infection from previous exposure to CYD vaccination. So, itong assay nito, this will differentiate if you are positive to your dengue, if you have dengue antibodies, that it could be to natural infection. So, differentiate mo natural infection versus from the vaccination, yung antibodies niya. So, this test was developed at the University of Pittsburgh. And then, actually, that was, yan is 2003, but it's a new test. It's just a research tool, and then it's an in-house research tool, exploratory. So, Sanofi, they co-developed with this University of Pittsburgh and looked into these clinical samples. So, actually, it's just like, parang nagganito lang ako, for example, sasabihin ko sa Department of Virology, ba't tingnan kaya natin? Kasi alam mong efficacy So, tingnan kaya natin ito, what test that could be used for this para makita natin ang bakit mababa ang efficacy in this group of children. So, in the CYD14, CYD15 studies, and in all dengue vaccine clinical trials that is going on, what is being used is the PRNT50. We just measure the level of neutralizing antibodies, so which correlate with the immune response. Because that's the only recommended test, the gold standard test, recommended by WHO. Wala pang ibang test. It's only the PRNT50. So itong Sanofi, they want to look at this knowledge gap, so yun, nagpaano sila ng test niya. Okay? So ito ang ginawa nila. Since we have only a subset of children in the zero that were prior to being vaccinated, so dito sila nag-start ng 13 month. 1 month after receive the 3 doses, kasi par-par sila. And so dito nag-start ang pagkuha nila, pag-test the clinical samples na yan until this time. So there were 33,000 samples from CYD57, that is a phase 2B study conducted in Thailand, and CYD14 sa Asia, CYD15 sa Latin America. So they tested 3,300 samples from these 33,000 samples, so mga around 10%. So yun. So that was the basis from there, sa basis nila kanilang press release. Okay? So kami, when we were informed of this finding, so kaming lahat nagsasabi, can we test all these 33,000 samples? Because this is a new test, although it has been validated, sabi nila with PRNT50, that's a new test, that is in-house test. So we want to look at all those 33,000 samples. Okay? So yun. So ang daming discussion, we just found out na na-release na ng November 30. Okay? So kami din, as investigators, na-shock din kami sa press release na yan. Because we all know that siguro sabi kanina ni Dr. Eric, very important talaga ang communication. No? So imagine that's the reason for all this mess that's going on in the country because of that press release. So ito ang result. Sa seronegative, in terms of symptomatic virologically confirmed dengue in 9 to 16 age, so it's favorable. In seronegative, in seropositive age to 9-16 hospitalized, it's favorable. In seronegative age to 19, dito na ang sa hospitalized virologically confirmed dengue na may mga relative risk. But seropositive favorable in 9 to 16 in terms of severe virologically confirmed dengue. And seronegative, so there are unfavorable increased RR. No? Yeah. So in summary itong findings na ito. In seronegatives, some level of efficacy against symptomatic VCD, but not statistically significant. Unfavorable imbalance in hospitalized and severe VCD, although these estimates did not reach statistical significance. So seropositive, statistically significant vaccine efficacy against symptomatic dengue until M25, until yung 22 years na efficacy phase, and hospitalized and severe dengue, and persistent and statistically significant protection against hospitalized and severe dengue up to month 66. Kasi ito yun ang long-term na follow-up. Okay? So balikan natin yun. So yun ang severe and long-term. So is the severe disease worse doon sa nakita with the new test? So ang ginamit na, this is the definition of severe dengue na recommended by IDMC, so Independent Data Monitoring Committee, and ito ang kanilang, that is the one definition that we used in the clinical trial. So, for example, ano na yun, virologically confirmed dengue fever, ganyan, plus one or more of the following: a platelet count of 100,000 and below, and bleeding, so any bleeding, so for example, nose bleeding, gum bleeding, positive tourniquet test, consider dyan as severe dengue, together with a platelet count of below 100,000, and the effusion, chest x-ray, ascites, and hematocrit of 25%, ito or, no? So hematocrit of more than 20% above baseline recovery level or standard of age. So we don't have population hematocrit, so pag mga 41, hematocrit 42, so consider na yan as hemo concentration. And ito shock, bleeding, transfusion yan. So walang nangyari doon sa mga vaccinees in both the in the vaccine group. Okay. So these are the clinical signs and symptoms of all hospitalized VCD. If we look, talagang walang difference. Ang ano nga dito is in shock. Ito ay is seronegative vaccine groups. That is, ito ang seronegative sila so vaccinated children have not yet had dengue antibodies. Ito naman ang diba ngayon ang issue, sero status, so seronegative. And then ito, seropositive ka, pero you have not received the vaccine. So, more or less the same sila. I mean, no difference. Dito nga sa shock, there is shock in 2 in the seropositive control group, none in the seronegative vaccine group. And ito naman ang clinical signs and symptoms of all severe VCD, or virologically confirmed dengue. Yeah. Okay, so more or less they have the same in terms of numbers between the seronegative vaccine group and seropositive control group. So, okay? So, yun, ang IDMC, itong sinasabi ng press release na severe dengue, it is based on the IDMC, no, na definition. And then, if we look at the 2009 WHO definition of severe dengue, so ito ang severe natin. Sa severe plasma leakage, leading to shock, fluid accumulation, ganyan, severe bleeding, and severe organ involvement. So yun ang ating understanding by sa medical community na based on the WHO definition of severe dengue. And if we look at the 1997 WHO dengue classification, yung manifestations, clinical manifestations in those the vaccine and even the placebo group. So there were DHF grade 1 and grade 2. So the clinical pattern of hospitalized and severe VCD is similar in the seronegative vaccines compared to the seropositive controls. All study participants who got severe dengue, whether vaccinated or not, have fully recovered. Diba, I told you earlier that the dengue vaccination program talagang robust yan. For 15, sinabi 25 clinical trials in 15 countries, more than 20 years of development, not one of those enrolled died. Okay? See yun. Ito ang importante kasi ang sinasabi pag seropositive, walang problema, no? And we look at the seropositive status ng doon sa CYD14 in the Asia group. Ang sa atin, because it was like a subset, so for 470 children, yung na-recommended age group na 9 to 12, ito na ang kanyang almost 88% were already seropositive for dengue antibodies. Sa San Pablo ito, if you look at the epidemiology ng San Pablo in the national data, so hindi sila masyadong mataas compared, for example, dito sa Metro Manila. And in the Dr. Alera study, na long-term follow-up siya sa Cebu. So this is independent from the dengue vaccine study. By 6 to 15 years of age, ang 74% of children had already multi-TB. That means 2 or more na ang dengue antibodies nila. Okay? And in terms of ito, CYD 66, that's ongoing. Ang baseline niya, the study population was 9 to 50 years of age. Ang seropositive was already 93%. So, mataas, okay? Actually, doon sa, bakit wala dito? Ang doon sa, kay Dr. Alera din study in terms of seropositive, around 92% were already seropositive with to dengue antibodies. So ito ang ano, no? I think it was the results of this anti-NS1 antigen and anti-NS1 assay was not properly, in terms of properly communicated by the global Sanofi, because even in the region and the local Sanofi, they were not aware of this press release. Yes. So ito sinasabi na for those not previously infected by dengue virus, however, the analysis found that in the longer term, ang longer term was, kaya sinasabi na that's a lifetime, di ba? Ang sa radio, sa media, lifetime that you will be susceptible to dengue infection. Kasi sinabi naman na longer term. And the longer term, remember the one that I showed, di ba? Efficacy phase, ang longer term na tawag ng year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, yun ang longer term na tawag namin sa clinical trial. Within that 4 years after, so kumbaga, 6 years, including the first dose. So yun ang ginamit nila. Based on the clinical trial na longer term, hindi man lang qualified as longer term is until year 6. At saka nakita mo lang ang risk doon sa year 3. Pero because they used the clinical samples, actually they didn't put, no? Kasi talagang tinanong ko kung ano ba talaga, how many doses, how many cases were seen in year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. So they didn't look at each year. They just pulled this from the year 3, year 4 clinical samples, and then that's already the longer term that we used. Longer term. So kumbaga walang limit na. It was only tested until year 6. Okay? So, and also the severe, they use the IDMC, the definition used in the clinical trial. So, hindi nagkakatugma ang understanding natin ng, siyempre, ng parents, no? That's understandable ng public. The understanding about severe it's shock, no? It's death. And also sa medical community, it's also the age of grade 3, they will have hypotension, and then later on, shock, and then uncontrolled bleeding, and then death. So, yun. So, ang doon sa IDMC, platelet count of 100,000 and below, and you have a nose bleeding, epistaxis, and you have a hematocrit of 42, that's already severe in our clinical trial, because the reason for the IDMC, itong nagmamonitor yan, IDMC, and it consists of 10 members from the different countries with different specialties. They have, of course, a biostatistician na they regularly monitor the safety, yung safety cases, no, SAs, ganoon. So, regularly monitoring the safety review, ganoon. So, ayun, hindi na tugma talaga ang mga understanding. So, you can't really blame us, the parents, everyone, sa ganitong press statement, no, na press release. Okay, so that's it. So it's just unfortunate, no? So, very important talaga ang communication, especially sa public health. Diba? Kasi siguro, these are immunologists. Baka immunologists, and they are French, and they are ganito. So, for them, other countries kasi is they have, ito na-receive ito ng global ito na, no, na information. Global, and all our, like those who participated in the clinical trials. So, in the respective countries, so kung anong decision of the Ministry of Health, and then their FDA. So yun, wala silang masyadong, siguro active na social media. Kasi di ba sabi nga sa atin, I read na doon sa digital report ng 2017, tayo ang Filipinos are the #1 user in terms of the amount of time used in the social media. So ang Filipinos ilang millions yun. And so sabi ko nga, mas mabilis pa kaysa the transmission of the dengue virus by yung mosquito ni Ferdi. So, di ba? Alam naman natin, ang transmission ng dengue virus is the virus that is transmitted by the vector from one person to another. So, ngayon, iba na ang pathophysiology ng dengue, ng understanding of everyone, even actually sa medical community. So, because you have been vaccinated, you have received the dengue vaccine, so you will develop dengue. So, yun na ngayon yun ang pathophysiology ngayon ng dengue disease. So, na-receive mo ang dengue vaccine, magkakaano ka, no? And if we consider that, we must remember that yung efficacy ng vaccine was after 3 doses. So, wala doon after 1 dose, titingnan mo efficacy, after 2 doses, because ang taas ng compliance ng subjects, ng participants, 98.8% completed the 3 doses. So doon tayo makakaano na, after 3 doses, ganitong efficacy. Hindi man masyadong mataas in terms of protection, but it reduced the severity, it reduced hospitalization. Compared to if you are not vaccinated, or maybe if you just receive 1 dose of dengue vaccine, hindi mo alam kung ano ang course ng infection mo. Kaysa naman, if you are vaccinated, magka-dengue ka man, like in any other vaccines, siguro mas milder. Okay? Because so far from our actually in San Pablo, in Cebu. So it's good that, I mean, we presented to them, we informed them. So ang iba naman sasabi, okay naman ang anak ko. So until it's now year 6, no? We're almost year 7. So far naman. And then, siguro, Esther, di ba, I don't know kung sino sa inyo who also among your relatives were part of the CYD-05, the phase 1. Di ba, 2 to 45 years of age. So it's now almost 12 years that those who participated in the CYD-05, so far they're okay. It's been 12 years that they have received the first dose. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose.